Afternoon, everybody. We'll just call everyone to attention, please. We're on live stream, and the team have told me that we're now going live, so just for people to be aware of that within the room. You're very welcome to Queen's University. I'm an understudy of an understudy today because our President and Vice-Chancellor is just coming back from Pittsburgh. My colleague, Professor Margaret Topping, our Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Global Engagement, showed up. She should be standing here instead of me, but I'll let her off with that today and give her a bit of a break because she's constantly at this work. But we're delighted to welcome everybody here, and thanks to Peter Gillese, Dr. Peter Gillese and the team for pulling together today's event. I am delighted that we have some phenomenal and really engaging panel members here today. Dr. David Jordan, Professor Phil Hanna here from Queen's, who's the Matrix Deputy Chair, Patricia O'Hagan, and Professor Helen McCarthy, who is here as a CTSA, Chief Scientific and Technology Officer, but Helen's one of ours. She's our Professor in Pharmacy and a former Associate Pro-Vice-Chancellor here at the University, and we're delighted with all the work she's doing in the Executive Office. As you're aware, we were meant to have the Right Honourable Lord David Willis here as well, but he's unwell today and sadly sent his apologies last night. So we'd hoped to have him here and garner his advice and have a dinner with him afterwards, but we will follow up with that in due course. So this university makes a significant economic contribution and societal impact. I think that's stating the obvious. And we here at Queen's want to share with all of you the commitment that we have to evidence-based policy and connecting research with real-world outcomes. And earlier this summer, the university hosted an economic forum attended by entrepreneurs, policymakers, researchers to explore how AI can supercharge Northern Ireland's potential as a global hub for innovation. And our Global Innovation and Economic Forum report places AI in the context of technological convergence, looking at how technology interacts with quantum computing, bioengineering, and new materials that will accelerate change. So in reviewing the Matrix AI and Future of Work report that projects that AI could add between 0.2 and 3.7 billion to Northern Ireland's economy within the next 5 years, that provides a whole host of occupational tasks that could be completely transformed by AI, and obviously very important that this institution takes the lead along with our government partners in looking at this approach. So both these pieces of work underscore the transformative potential for AI and how it can impact on productivity, competitiveness, skills, inclusion, and the nature of work itself. Interestingly, we had a debate in the university only last week when we talked about the future of our graduates and the traditional jobs that come out of the university, and we want to improve how we listen to industry. And a very senior partner, a former senior partner in one of the big four firms says to me, you need to be aware of the fact that 30% of the jobs that young people graduated from Queen's from will not exist by 2030. And I looked at him and thought, is that an appropriate statistic? Is that true? And somebody who knows something about AI in the economy says, yeah, things are going to change at a significant rate over the next 5 years. So that's why this underpins our need as an institution for an opportunity to work with all the parties in this room, with government, to have a collective approach around growth. And collaboration is key. And we're talking about collaboration between humans and technology and a triple helix approach across academia, industry and government that will turn the innovation that we want here in this institution and right across Northern Ireland into an implementation plan that impacts on the economy. Now, the key regional strengths of Northern Ireland are we have an interconnected ecosystem. We have a personal approach to how we do our business. We have 1.9 million people in this region. We are smaller than Manchester. We all know each other. That's a good thing, believe it or not, as well. Sometimes it's a bad thing, but we'll put that on the mantelpiece for today. And we can use the keyword of responsibility that's reflected in each of the reports that we're talking about today. They remind us of the ethical and responsible adoption of AI for economic progress. That depends greatly on remaining agile, effective, managing tasks, maintaining trust, making sure ethics and governance are at the core of the experimental process. So I want to thank Matrix and all those involved in producing this report. At Queen's, we're determined to play our part in delivering on these ambitions through research excellence, through partnerships, through our role in equipping graduates with the skills and adaptability that the future economy will demand. Now, to conclude, we want to make it clear that here at Queen's, we want to ensure that we're playing a key role in policy development. And Peter and the team are working very hard at that and producing papers. And I see Dr. Wendy McGlynn, my colleague there from the Directorate of Research. So at Queen's, we're keen to listen. We want to hear from industry. We want to hear from our partners. Celine McStravick's here from the third sector. We want you to feed into us about how we can make a better contribution to Northern Ireland in terms of our research, but also in terms of how we educate the future workforce. We want to hear your feedback on what does the graduate of tomorrow need in the curriculum here to make an impact in society and the economy. So over to you. I look forward to this panel, and thanks very much for being here today. Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan, so much. And thank you, Queens, for allowing us to have the event here. So my name's Gavin Costigan. I'm Chief Executive of the Foundation for Science and Technology. I'm also a stand-in, as you've just heard, for David Willits, who sends his apologies. He really is very unwell and was not able to fly over this morning. This particular event is being jointly hosted by Queens, by Matrix, and by the Foundation for Science and Technology, hence these three wonderful signs behind me. And we've titled the event AI and the Future of Work, and that's indeed to mirror the title of the Matrix report that came out last month, talking about that within Northern Ireland. And as Ryan was saying, we all know AI is going to transform the workforce. We all know the huge economic potential. We all know the new jobs that could be created, but we also know that old jobs will disappear and most jobs will change in some way or another. And what we want to do with this event is to take the Matrix report, think about how that might happen, how the different scenarios might play out. And this is, of course, is of interest everywhere, across the world, across the whole of the UK, and in Northern Ireland in particular. But we will hopefully be able to see this as a test bed that is of interest within Northern Ireland and outside. And there's a whole lot of interesting questions that I hope we'll be able to debate and discuss as we go through. So just to explain, when we get to the Q&A section, those of you in the room can ask a question directly with a microphone. Those of you following online, and you're most welcome, you need to ask questions via Slido. So if you go to the Slido website and use the number that's on the screen there, I'll just read it out once, 334-7437, and that will take you to a place to ask questions. And do upvote questions as well, because when it comes to taking questions from online, we're likely to ask the questions that most people have upvoted so that we can put the most important questions to the panel. And unlike the people in the room, you don't have to wait. You can start asking those questions now, and we'll pick them up when we get to that part. But we have four amazing speakers, as Ryan was saying. So without further ado, I will introduce the first one. So our first speaker is Patricia O'Hagan, a tech entrepreneur, co-founder of Core Systems, with an engineering and product development background and over 20 years of corrections technology experience. And very relevant to this discussion, she is also deputy chair of Matrix. Patricia, over to you.
Thanks, Gavin. Good afternoon, everyone. To those of you in the room and also to those joining us online. I'm Patricia O'Hagan, as Gavin said, member of Matrix, which is Northern Ireland's independent science and technology advisory panel. And it's my pleasure to introduce the findings of our new report, AI and the Future of Work in Northern Ireland. This report explores one of the most pressing questions of our time. How is artificial intelligence transforming the nature of work? And what does it mean for the people, the economy, and our future here in Northern Ireland? As a panel, we were very eager to tackle this issue. The signs of disruption are already visible through many sectors, and so too are the opportunities. Today, I will share the key findings and recommendations, and most importantly, how we can work together to turn this moment of uncertainty into a moment of opportunity. And I can't see this at all. AI is no longer a horizon technology. It has arrived, and it's already transforming the nature of work. It's reshaping sectors, disrupting business models, and redefining career paths. And it's within this context that we set out to explore how Northern Ireland can lead in this AI-driven economic transformation, while also addressing the societal and ethical questions that come with AI's impact on workers, and the very nature of employment. Our study examines AI's impact through to 2030, based on current capabilities and adoption trajectories. It focuses on 6 key objectives: understanding how AI is reshaping workforce structures in an AI-powered economy, assessing sectoral susceptibility and displacement risks, evaluating economic and workforce impacts, addressing potential workforce inequalities, and we conducted scenario planning to inform strategic direction, and we developed a set of actionable policy recommendations. As we began the study, several key trends quickly stood out to us. First, the pace of technological change. AI is evolving from a supportive tool to an autonomous decision maker, as agentic systems that plan, reason, and act independently. We're already seeing this shift in finance, healthcare, and supply chains. Second, the uneven impact on the workforce. Disruption is concentrated in entry-level and knowledge-based roles, and it risks deepening inequalities by gender, age, and digital access, with women in particular being particularly exposed because most of the threatened areas are actually predominated by female workers. Third, the speed of adoption. Change is happening much faster than we expected. What we thought could take years is unfolding in months. In the US, workforce use of AI jumped from 30% to 46% in just 6 months, an increase of over 50%. And finally, the level of uncertainty. Global forecasts range from large-scale job losses to net job creation. Outcomes that depend heavily on how AI is implemented and governed. AI's impact is uneven across sectors, organisations, and individuals. Knowledge-intensive industries like ICT, professional scientific services, are already feeling disruption, along with finance, insurance, and admin support. And Northern Ireland faces specific vulnerabilities because of our economic structure. Much of our foreign direct investment has centred on back office roles, the ones that are most exposed to AI automation. Professional services, including legal accountancy and technical consultancy, is an important part of our economy and serving UK and international markets. But the traditional billable hours model is under pressure, as clients will expect AI-related productivity gains to be reflected in pricing. And Northern Ireland is also an SME economy, with over 81,000 registered small and medium-sized businesses employing most of our workforce. AI adoption in SMEs lags behind the larger firms that are already transforming their operations. But this also provides us with an opportunity because AI is so accessible. It can be deployed on existing digital infrastructure. Our economy sits at the lower end of UK productivity and innovation rankings, but with targeted support to upskill SMEs and build AI capability, we can unlock new efficiencies, boost productivity, and free up capacity for innovation, driving growth in new products, services, and markets. Our economic modelling examined the additional impact of AI from today through to 2030. Even allowing for uncertainty around adoption and implementation, the results are striking. AI could add between 0.2 billion and 3.7 billion in extra GVA by 2030, with a midpoint of 1.2 billion. The midpoint reflects steady, realistic progress, while the high case shows what's possible with accelerated adoption and bold leadership. Unemployment, AI could affect 13 to 47% of job tasks. That's an equivalent of 110 to 200,000 job equivalent impacts. But these figures reflect task transformation rather than job displacement. Much of AI's impact represents augmentation of human capability rather than wholesale replacement. The message is clear. With the right focus on skills, business support, and digital infrastructure, Northern Ireland can harness AI not just to grow its economy, but to shape a more innovative, inclusive, and resilient future of work. So, to help with strategic planning, we adopted the approach of scenario planning. Because really there's so much uncertainty about how AI will evolve and the impact that could happen. So scenario planning helps us to stretch our thinking, to consider multiple futures, and to test how different choices might play out. And it's a simple idea. If we can imagine it, we can plan for it. So within the working group, we identified 10 critical uncertainties that would shape AI's impact on work. And from that list, we focused down on 2 key uncertainties that we thought would be the most impactful. And that was the pace of AI adoption, whether it would be gradual and managed or rapid and disruptive, and the capacity for workforce reskilling, whether our people and systems can keep up with the technological change. And by combining these 2 dimensions, we developed 4 scenarios, each one painting a different picture of Northern Ireland's AI-powered future and the actions that can make the difference between disruption and opportunity. So these are the 4 plausible scenarios that we came up with about how AI could reshape the future of work in Northern Ireland by 2030. They're not predictions, they're like a planning tool designed to help us think through different possibilities based on the uncertainties. The first, Titanic leap. In this future, Northern Ireland becomes a nimble, productive AI powerhouse where innovation thrives, jobs evolve, and continuous reinvention drives competitiveness. The AI stampede. Here, technology races ahead faster than people and systems can adapt. And this results in a very divided landscape where there are clear winners and clear losers across firms, sectors, and people. Third, crafted catching up. In this scenario, people proactively upskill and adapt, but the rollout of AI remains cautious. Northern Ireland stays capable and stable, but falls well short of any global frontrunners. And finally, slow lane spiral. This is the warning case. AI adoption stagnates, complacency grows, and competitiveness, wages, and optimism steadily decline. Each scenario carries distinct economic, social, and governance implications, along with early warning signs that can help policymakers and business leaders recognise which path we're on, and crucially, how to steer forward and into the future that we want. Northern Ireland has what it takes to lead in the age of AI. We've got world-class research in cybersecurity and health tech, a culture of collaboration, and the agility that comes with our small scale. The foundations are here, but success depends on how boldly we act. We face 3 big challenges and 3 big opportunities. First, leadership and culture. We need to move beyond caution. Excuse me. It's time to replace a compliance mindset with a culture of curiosity and experimentation. We're learning from early missteps becomes part of progress. Second, skills and talent. Our people are our greatest assets. By building agility into our education and training systems and helping every business, not just the tech firms, to harness AI, we can turn potential into productivity and innovation. And third, trust and ethics. Trust is our differentiator. With transparency, responsibility, and collaboration, Northern Ireland can lead globally in an ethical, responsible AI environment. But these challenges are not barriers, they're our call to action, and if we move decisively, we can turn this moment of disruption into opportunity. We developed a set of actionable recommendations based on willingness, capability, and capacity. Willingness meaning developing understanding and trust. That means scaling up leadership programs to build AI confidence across public, private, and third sectors. Launching a national public engagement campaign so people feel part of this transformation. And appointing an independent AI champion to connect government, industry, and academia. Capability means giving businesses the tools to deploy AI effectively. That includes expanding business support infrastructure, creating tailored help for AI-driven enterprises, creating an AI workforce impact observatory to spot disruption early so that we can take action, and helping cross-border companies navigate both the UK and EU AI regulations. Capacity means closing the gap. Launching an AI skills surge program, making flexible, industry-recognised training available to everyone, supporting the workers whose roles are changing, and embedding AI learning in every school. Together, these actions will ensure Northern Ireland moves confidently from experimentation to leadership. Northern Ireland stands at a critical juncture. AI isn't a distant horizon, it's already here, shaping the world around us. We have the talent, creativity, and collaborative spirit, but leadership now demands urgency and unity of purpose. If we act decisively, building trust, investing in skills, and embracing innovation, we can make AI a force for good, powering our economy, strengthening our communities, and shaping a future that reflects our values and ambition. Our success requires collaboration and coordinated action across government, business, and education. The choice is ours, and the time to act is now. Thank you.
Patricia, thank you very much, and I hope you're also feeling better by the end of the day. So our second speaker is Professor Helen McCarthy. She was appointed the Chief Scientific and Technical Advisor to the Northern Ireland Assembly in June 2024, and as Ryan said earlier, she's also Chair of Nanomedicine here at Queen's. But Helen, over to you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll keep the clicker. I'll start the timer, try to stick to 10 minutes. Good evening, everyone. For some of you, most of you, I've seen you earlier today, and you're going to hear what's going on, and you already know, so that's good. You can be disciples of what we're doing. For those that don't know, this is what we're doing. So, essentially, I thought I would give you a little bit of an update, and all the projects that we've been doing have been related to AI. So, You will see there that's the role of the CSTA officially. So you're meant to be involved in civil contingencies. Those of you that are in the know we will have gone through an exercise Pegasus recently. We're also essentially, my main role is to embed science and technology across policy making across all of the government departments. However, you will also hopefully have read the programme for government. There were 2 key lines in it. The first key line was we will have an Office of Science and Technology. The second key line was we'll have an Office of AI and Digital. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Right, so you'll see we have created the Office of Science and Technology, and there are a number of different strands and projects that you will see there. And all of these strands fit together, dock in together to use this Office of Science and Technology to be an advocate for change. I think one of the key things that comes out from all of this is we have used AI and also data. And let's not forget data is the key thing in all of this, and also digital in what we're trying to do. I'm not going to go through all of them, but let me just flag Women in STEAM. Patricia rightly made the comment there that women are most likely to be affected. On that note, women across the civil service, again, we are doing a lot of work with them on technology. So Women in STEAM is about the arts and humanities in the middle of STEM. And the reason for that is we will have absolutely our Ian Stiles and our Roger Woods, etc., who are actually world leading in the advanced technologies. But we will also have those in arts and humanities that want to avail of these tools and want to use these technologies. And also, we're never going to embed true change and disruption unless we include everybody in the conversation. So we've had a Women in STEAM network. It's been hugely successful. We've had 3 sessions so far. The first one was about unconscious bias. Very, very important. We lag behind the rest of the UK in this. We have to do something about it. The second one was obviously then about what is our AI ecosystem. So those of us who all know each other know that we've got AICC, we've got the universities, we've got Catalyst, we've got essentially all of the regional city deals who all have a bit of information and technology that underpins them. So I guess it was important to share this with the civil service as well. You talk about the SME economy and you talk about the Matrix report. We are dealing with a civil service that we have to try to help and encourage, and it is our duty to work with them to help them upskill in what has been a very difficult time and what has been quite technologically challenging. So there has been a digital review across the civil service, and every level was at beginner level. So that is what we're dealing with here. So we're having one again, actually hosting up in Riddle Hall here on the 18th of November. And this is going to be a 101 on how can AI revolutionise your office life. Okay, the second one is, I had some really interesting meetings over this period of time. Most recently with Sir Ian Chapman the other week, as you know, as head of UKRI. And he's very much what's the Northern Ireland proposition. The Northern Ireland proposition, we all know in our little bits what it is, but we need to join ourselves up. So in order to join ourselves up, what we did was we put a science champion in each of the government departments. And you can see Ian can talk to you at the back there. So Ian ran point on a project which is to get areas of research interest into every government department. Areas of research interest are present in England since 2017. And this was on the back of the Nurse Review in 2015. Northern Ireland has never had them. Across 9 independent government departments, we now have 80 ARIs that we're getting approval to launch. And of those 80 AIs, 60 of them have AI-based technologies that departments want to work with both academia and industry to help. This is a golden opportunity. This is walking into a room with the people that aren't wearing any shoes and you're a shoemaker. Okay, so this is an opportunity to join the dots between our PGA programme and Department for Economy, our other levers that we can pull to try to help support our government departments and do these research projects. It was also really important to get the departments, again, to really think about what does the research ask? Where do they want to get to with the research? So the NI Science website is about pulling that all together, and Ulster University have done a fantastic job. Don't shoot me for saying Ulster in a Queen's building, but they have done a fantastic job building this website. Important things that we need to think about is the quadruple helix. And by that, I mean bringing in citizens as well. We have to be open and transparent on everything that we do, and all of our AI projects be open about it and share exactly what's going on. Key actions for a 5-point plan. So whether we like it or not, and I pass no judgment on this, across the civil service, everybody is docked into Microsoft Copilot. There's no training for Copilot across the civil service. So we've a bit of work to do here to try to get them to use it as a pilot to help them with their day-to-day jobs. And there's great opportunities. You saw recently there was a call for executive assistants, 500 of them coming into the civil service. Why not use tools like this for that? Okay, ensure every department has cloud. I know you find it hard to believe, but we've only recently put cloud in the executive office, and that was quite an arduous process. We need every department to have cloud, and then Philip Wales, who heads up NISRA, who's sitting at the back of the room, we are working on how do we legally start to share data. So Philip's running point on thinking about we have to change our legal framework to share data. One of the key things that I want to tell you is that our data is one thing, our documents and our information are another. We have 110 million documents that are currently sitting on a format in Content Manager that is inaccessible to every AI tool. So when everybody says, government, I want you to do this, that, or the other, none of the information is accessible at the moment. So what we're doing is we're going to basically, across all 9 departments that are separate legal entities, flip the data from Content Manager into an accessible version of that. In most other countries, they do this department by department, but I really do believe that this will be transformational for us. It's a systems-wide approach that we're going to do, and that will set us up not just for the next 2 to 3 years, but set us up for the next 20 years. Okay, finally, just to say, we adopt very much a collaborative approach. We are currently drafting the AI strategy on the back of a number of external and internal stakeholders. We have put AI champions into every government department, and that's known as the Government AI Network or the GAIN Network. NISTAN is the Northern Ireland Science and Technology Advisory Network, which has science champions in it. Philip is running point on the data strategy. Department for Economy are running point on the digital strategy. And we're all docked in, working together to try to deliver. I'm not saying it will be at Titanic level innovation, but we're doing our best to try to work together to have a cohesive approach. That's it. I'm done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Helen. Right, our third speaker is Professor Philip Hanna, Dean of Education at the Faculty of Engineering and Physical Sciences here at Queen's, with a background in computer science education and passionate about technology and its implications for the future of education in a rapidly evolving world. Well, isn't it rapidly evolving? Phil, over to you.
Thank you. Brilliant. Many thanks for giving me an opportunity to have a bit of an explore. I want to think about skills and how education relates to that, and to offer a couple of provocations for 2 reasons. One, in terms of Ms. Patricia is very well set out, in terms of the Matrix report, skills is one of those fundamental elements that will shape the success in our future. And the second aspect is that AI actually offers a lot of challenge in this space. So I think it's right to challenge ourselves around those elements of it. And actually, if we go back to this one here, just to pick up one little bit that is inside the Matrix report, when they talk about an inductive response, they highlight about providing both those AI literacies and those complementary human skills. So I want to sort of peer a little bit inside what does that entail, and to think of it both from the perspective of those upskilling, but also those reskilling, and also to think about education systems, because we have to be concerned about the success that the individuals going through those education systems will have in their future. To give you one example of why this is going to be impactful and why AI will be impactful upon jobs, what you can see on the screen is actually fairly recent benchmark, GPT-Val. is one that looks at economically relevant jobs. It's the types of things a professional might spend half an hour or a couple of hours doing a task, and it looks across those tasks across multiple domains. On the left-hand side, it sort of shows you what some of the models are able to do in terms of quality. So this is comparing it against people in those areas, and it's been improving over time. But on the right-hand side, it looks at a couple of other dimensions. That's in terms of time, and it's in terms of cost. And when we look at AI systems, the ones we have today, crudely speaking, they're about 2 orders of magnitude better than we compare them to people. So I think there is figures there, I think, for GPT-5, where in terms of time is about 90 times faster, and in terms of cost is about 470 times cheaper. So we can say with high confidence that AI is going to impact upon significant number of job roles and what people do. Now, what does that mean in terms of the longer term? What are the questions around jobs? What are the questions around society? There are significant questions in this space that is really important for us to look at and to explore. Today, though, in the 10 minutes I have, I want to zoom in a bit and to think about specifically individuals within jobs or entering into jobs. What are the skills that we can provide them that will afford us a level of assurance we think, yes, they're going to find success in their future? And thankfully there, if our horizons the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, there is actually a considerable degree of consistency into what those skills are. So in the 10 minutes, I just want to jump straight to what those reports summarize or my understanding of it. So here's the first bit. If we assume inside a job or inside a team that we will have AI fulfilling different elements of that, fair enough. That AI, though, will still need to be used for a particular purpose or have a particular direction. It will also still need to be orchestrated in terms of the configuration, the management, the optimization of it. The output from those AIs will still need to be validated in terms of thinking about the quality and the appropriateness. And let's make an assumption that people will fulfill those particular aspects. So if they do, then we can move on and think about, okay, what skills do people need to do this? And there, if we break that down, quite a rich set of skills emerge. So, of course, people, as has been mentioned so far, they need to have skills around AI and data. That's an essential element, but it's not a complete one. We need to have ones beyond that. Beyond that, it is likely to be in many areas they will need to have domain expertise, potentially deep domain expertise in those areas. In terms of the thinking skills, the evaluative skills, the analysis skills, they are important. They're unlikely to be at a very low granular level. They're more likely to be at a higher systems level. And in terms of that big picture thinking, can also touch upon things around business acumen and related ones. So when we think about providing people with skills, be they upskilling, reskilling, or going through education, it goes beyond just teach them about AI to think about all of those complementary areas that need to come together to enable people to be able to use AI in a way that is productive and is beneficial. We'd also look beyond this to think about, well, what are the areas where either we may choose not to use AI or AI within this time frame may not yet be capable, and there may be a number of aspects there, particularly relevant for reskilling or thinking about education systems. But one bit I do want to highlight is that if we're thinking about an environment that is more uncertain, more fast changing, then the mindset that individuals have becomes particularly important. And if we have individuals who are curious, who are resilient, who can self-learn, who have passion, all of those elements will probably set them up very well for their future. And indeed, all of these are things that actually can be developed through education by putting people in appropriate environments. So when we say, as has been said within the Matrix report, about providing those AI literacies and the complementary human skills, it is almost certainly the case that the complementary human skills do a significant amount of the lifting in this. And we need to think about the education systems we have and to what extent do they provide or enable this. This brings me to the first of my 2 provocations for all of us. If we think about a lot of our education today, and I'm including here more or less all of secondary level education and quite a lot of third level education, we tend to have courses and programs that teach a body of knowledge. We tend to look at the basic application of that knowledge, and that tends to be in well-defined, often academic problems with a right or a wrong answer. We may have some elements of collaboration, of teamwork. We may have some instances where we're getting people to deal with messy, real-world, judgment-based problems. And we may have some instances where we look at things in a capstone, bringing and fusing together different areas. But I think in a lot of cases for our education programs, if we're to prepare people for the future that we know is coming, we will need to better balance the content inside our programs. The second provocation I have to all of us is to think about not the what, but the how of education. And I'm sure we've all found ourselves in a situation where we spent many hours struggling through an assignment or an assessment, and it may not have been fun. Or we may have found ourselves dealing with a particular problem that we're banging our head against the metaphorical wall in terms of being able to solve it. And if I were to come along and to say, hey, would you like an easy, quick way of doing education, hassle-free, now we've updated with AI, that will be appealing to an awful lot of our learners. It'll be tempting to them, be they upskilling, reskilling, or in education. Here's a bold statement. If we're thinking about AI specifically as it pertains to learning itself, it is double-edged. On one side, it can be wondrous, the best thing ever. On the other side, it can be ruinous. It can destroy our learners' future. And the reason for this is actually remarkably straightforward. It's about us, people, and how people learn. So all of that time and effort that we put on it, all of that struggle that we went through, it may not have been enjoyable, but that's what learning feels like. And in doing that, our brains were being activated, our neurons were firing, we were setting down and establishing our revised neural pathways, we were learning. And AI can help in that process. If I'm stuck in something, it can give me an explanation that I can get and help to establish those pathways. It can give me lots of examples I can practice on. It can give me feedback I can reflect upon. It can be wondrous. It also can just give me the answer that I could submit and say to myself, oh, I'll just look at the answer, not how it got to it. And that'll be enough. That's quick and easy learning. It isn't learning at all. So, second provocation for us is based on looking at our education systems today and to say that in a lot of cases, what we are focusing on is the outcome, getting people to a particular destination. We tend not to spend that much care and attention on the journey to that destination. And sometimes we use marks and other things as incentive for doing this. So I think we are also in a situation where we think about learning and all of those people who will need to be upskilled and reskilled and who are going through education. We need to think a lot more about the journey that they are on as well as the destination we want to get them to, and to talk to them a lot more about that journey and the things that they will have to do and the experiences that they will want to have on that. In conclusion, definitely we can say the future is going to be interesting, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be worrying, and it's going to be difficult. All of those will apply. The one thing I am aware of, and the one thing that already has been mentioned, it came up a number of times, is that if we collaborate and support one another, absolutely we can make a difference here and we can have a successful outcome. But that collaboration and that support, that is likely to be a necessary component of whatever future success we will have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our last speaker is Dr. David Jordan, who is a lecturer in economics here at Queen's. He also leads the Northern Ireland Productivity Forum and is the independent advisor on productivity to the Northern Ireland Department of the Economy. David.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm going to be speaking about some of our work here at the Business School with my colleagues John Turner and Ruth Donaldson. as part of our research for the Northern Ireland Productivity Forum, which is hosted here at the Business School as part of the wider Productivity Institute. And I want to start off with firstly the definition around what is productivity, because it does mean different things to different people. And often whenever the public hears it, the immediate reaction is thinking it means about working harder. But the way we approach productivity is thinking about this from an economy-wide perspective. And this is a definition in terms of labour productivity and the total value of output produced for a given amount of work. And this is focusing, therefore, on what our economy is producing in terms of total value relative to the number of hours that go into that. And the key thing with productivity is that it's what determines ultimately our economy's health and our standard of living. So it firstly determines the wages that businesses can pay. It also determines, therefore, the taxes that can be generated for public spending. And ultimately that feeds through to our competitiveness of our economy. But as you know, with the UK's productivity performance, particularly recently, it's been a big focus of policy that the UK has seen a stagnation of productivity growth. And of course, Northern Ireland, as you'll see in a second, doesn't form particularly well either, even compared to the UK. So it's a key challenge for our economy. And something as well I want to emphasise is this idea of there being a high road and a low road to sustainable productivity growth. So this is something that our director of the Productivity Institute has written about. And if we want to see sustainable productivity growth, we need to get away from the idea that productivity is simply about efficiency. Yes, efficiency is an important part of seeing improved productivity, but with that definition of labour productivity, it's also about the value of what we produce. So sometimes we need to invest more to actually increase that value as well. So we need to think about this from that overall perspective. How then does Northern Ireland perform in terms of its productivity? Well, the most recent data from the ONS puts the productivity gap at around 12% when measured per hour worked relative to the UK level. Over the past 10 to 15 years, Northern Ireland has been around 15 to 20% below the UK level, so we have seen a bit of a recent improvement, and it has moved up now to around 8th out of the UK's regions. But it's still not a great performance. And of course, London and the South East are the two regions of the UK that surpass that UK average and are in the lead. We also know, and we looked at this in our productivity dashboard, how does Northern Ireland stack up to our closest neighbour in terms of the Republic of Ireland. We've measured this gap in our most recent dashboard last year at around 20% below the level of Irish productivity. And in our forthcoming dashboard that will be out in December, we're estimating this gap is potentially growing slightly further again. And we know Northern Ireland is lagging behind the UK, but also lags behind its international comparisons and peers as well. So this is something that we need to try and improve to see our economy be successful. This graph is showing over time how Northern Ireland's productivity performance has changed. And it goes back to 1998. And it compares us to the UK level at 100, but also relative to Scotland and to Wales. And in the past, we were lagging Wales and we were the last region within the UK ranking. More recently, during the pandemic, we did see an improvement. And this appears not to simply be a one-off improvement that disappeared. Some of this has been kept, although it has settled back down slightly again. So we have seen some change recently. But we still lag behind where we'd like to be. And really what we'd like to do is be more like Scotland here in this graph. We want to try and converge with the UK level and get closer to that average, that we can be maybe not as high as London and the South East, but one of the leading regions within the UK for productivity. So what then determines Northern Ireland's productivity potential? Well, with my colleagues, we've been looking at the reasons for low productivity in Northern Ireland's economy. And in our report on the left there, MI Productivity 2040, we looked at the key challenges as to why Northern Ireland has this persistent problem of low productivity. And we structured it around this framework on screen of 5 key areas that determine Northern Ireland's productivity potential. So at the top, we have business performance and characteristics. So how do our individual businesses perform, what they look like in terms of innovation, exports, and finance. We then have our skills and how that looks in terms of our employees particularly. So those who are in the workforce, in businesses, what skills do they have, what training do they receive. On the bottom right, we have policy and institutions. So these are the policies enacted by government to try and support productivity growth and get that sustainable productivity growth. We then have health and well-being. So this is thinking about individuals more broadly within society and what determines their ability to fulfill their potential. And then we have investment, infrastructure, and connectivity. So we can think of this as the business environment that firms are operating within and the barriers potentially that this can create. And AI will have an influence in all of these areas. So a business will be implementing AI, as we've heard, in terms of its processes. Those who are in the workforce, who are employees, are going to have to learn how to use AI in terms of their work and their roles. In terms of policy, institutions and government is going to be both a user of AI, as we heard from Helen, but also it's going to be part of regulating the use of AI as well. So it may determine what barriers may exist from regulation for adoption. Then in terms of health and well-being, we think of the social consequences potentially of AI, how that may have consequences for individuals within society. And then AI as well will become part of our digital infrastructure as well. So it's something that we need to invest in. And these are all areas, these 5 areas are what we look at in terms of our annual dashboard, and we think about, where does Northern Ireland perform? And as you can see on last year's dashboard, there's a lot of red, but what we want to see is improvement in these areas. And AI offers an opportunity to think about how we can support that improvement. So in terms of AI and Northern Ireland's productivity challenge, we know that Northern Ireland has this long-standing problem of low productivity. So the graph on the right shows Northern Ireland's productivity measured against the UK level for the past 100 years, and even to the 6 counties that would become Northern Ireland before partition. And we see the productivity gap has persisted for that period of time. It has started to close and it's gradually closed over time, but we still lag behind where we'd like to be. When we have seen improvements in terms of Northern Ireland's performance, they have tended to display 3 main characteristics. So we've tended to see there's been some kind of implementation of new technology. So for example, in textiles, it used to be the big employer in Northern Ireland. 52% of manufacturing employment was at one time in textiles. It was the introduction of man-made fibres that saw productivity improve, but that took time, and Northern Ireland was quite slow in its adoption. There's also been investment. When we've seen improvements, particularly since the 1990s, we've seen a lot of foreign direct investment. But this is something that is quite a competitive market, and we have to think about how can we also get investment through our firms that are here now. And we've seen closure of firms. And this is something in terms of structural change that will happen. And policy in the past has tried to mitigate the effects and potentially slow down that change, but we have to think about how do we support that to aid sustainable productivity growth. So implementation does require us to adapt and to try and implement better, and particularly with new technology. And something that's key to this, and this relates to research we undertook 2 years ago looking at management practices in firms in Northern Ireland. We found that firms have more structured management practices that operate closer to best practice, had greater digitalization of their processes. And that's beyond simply AI, but even the most standard systems, maybe to do with customer management or stock processes. So there are key things underneath this that we need to try and improve if we want to see adoption of AI to be successful. So I'm going to conclude with 3 main takeaways from our research that I think are important to consider if we want to think about AI and how it can improve productivity in Northern Ireland. Firstly, there is the potential tension between productivity and employment. And often this is seen very much in terms of people losing their jobs. And this will be an effect potentially in the short term. But what we want to see is support and improvements over the long term. And therefore, there will be this structural change. It will be inescapable because we're a small economy operating in a global environment. But therefore, we should be thinking about how we think towards the long term. Second, structural change will require support from government. So in the past, it has often been about supporting levels of employment. But to try and think about a way to have sustainable productivity growth, it will increasingly be about how do we support people moving to other roles and other jobs in the economy. And a key part of this will be lifelong learning. Often the focus has been about those coming into the workforce and their skills, which is important, but we have to think about how do we support those who may lose their jobs, but therefore we want to make the most of their potential in new jobs and new roles and new firms. And finally, as I try to remember what I've got on my side, successful implementation, it will require adaptability and resilience. So the key thing here is that policy needs to try and provide the best possible business environment, an environment as well for employees. So we sometimes talk about AI having the potential to transform our economy, which it does. But we have to be careful and remember that there are things that we maybe haven't done.
I want to pick up on the trade-off between the
trade-off between...
So this was, you were talking about the trade-off between money spent on teaching AI and money spent on other courses, right?
Yeah. So you can't live in this country and not be aware that I think the Department for Education is about 300 million overspent, and it's a similar story across all the departments, and we've had multiple years of layering inefficiency on top of inefficiency on top of inefficiency. Okay, so we're not going to fix this overnight. It's just not going to happen. But we're having a conversation about it, and we're having actions around it, and our ministers are committed to driving the change, as are all the permanent secretaries. And to have that cohesive approach and that joined-up approach, despite not having, as you would have in England, a single government, a single party in charge, is actually great testimony to the people that are sitting around the table to try to make this happen. So I hear what you're saying. I hear there's no money. I hear there's no courses. There's not what you want. But we're going to have to be creative with what we've got. And what we have is everybody in the room knows each other. What we have is our connectivity when we go out and about. And what we're trying to do is, certainly from an R&D perspective, we want to quadruple the R&D that we bring in here in the next 10 years. That's our goal. In order to do that, we need to be joined up in our proposition. So I would suggest that we need to start doing these in our educational propositions, in all of the propositions, and work together. We are too small to be in competition with each other over anything.
Could I just mention there, like the concept of lifelong learning, everything on skills today is basically front-loaded, investment in our children, they go to college, whatever, and it's like they get all the knowledge for their career at the start. Like that's changing. And people will vote with their feet, and there's so much material available online, and different learning experiences, which can be more personalised, that people will follow the routes that give them what they need. So, I think education in general is extremely challenged at the moment. And like another point about the inefficiency of our education system, like our education system has done a pilot in 80 schools across Northern Ireland where they give AI to teachers, and they were able to save on average, 12 hours a week. So there's an opportunity there's time available that can be used for innovation to pilot and try things differently.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I see we've come to the end of our time. So I'm going to say thank you very much to our wonderful panel. Thank you. So just for all of you watching, a recording of this event will go up on the website of the Foundation for Science and Technology tomorrow or on Friday, so you can catch up and watch it again. We will probably send you a short survey to ask you how wonderful it was, so please do fill that in. For those of you joining online, thank you so much. And for those of you in the room, there is a drinks reception just outside, so please do stay around and chat to our speakers then. But thank you very much.
Speech is